Right now, we're pleased to be joined by Michio Kaku. The Future of the Mind is his most recent book. Here is the cover. Now, Dr. Kaku, in this book, you write that we've learned more about the human mind in the past 15 years than in all of history. Why is that?
Because of advances in physics, we can now go right into the thinking brain and see thoughts ricocheting like a ping pong ball right inside the mind, and realize that we're entering the golden age of neuroscience, where things that were once considered impossible, even preposterous, we can now do. Telepathy, telekinesis, recording memories, perhaps even photographing a dream, controlling computers with the mind, controlling robots with the mind. We've done it. We've been there. We've done all these things in the laboratory.
How did this happen? How did this occur in the last 15 years?
Well, the brain was historically a black box. We didn't know what was inside the brain. There was only speculation like Freudian psychology or behaviorism. But now, because of physics, you see, radio can go right through the human brain as if there was nothing there. And now with MRI scans, we can look at blood flow swishing around the brain. And then we can begin to look at all the old wives' tales, the theories of Sigmund Freud. And we now know that some of those theories were correct. Some of it was, of course, incorrect. And we can now then use computers to decipher the blood flow to create a picture of what you are thinking about. This is amazing. If you think about the Mona Lisa, we can now put your head inside an MRI scan, have a computer look at all the blood flows, and then reconstruct a picture of the Mona Lisa. In fact, when you fall asleep in that MRI machine, the machine just keeps on plugging away and prints out your dream. One day we'll wake up in the morning and see the dream that we had the previous night.
Dr. Kaku, though, MRIs are relatively old technology anymore, isn't it?
Yes, but now we can have snapshots of the brain, almost like in motion picture. We couldn't do that before. The first MRI machines, we got basically still pictures. Still uninteresting pictures. Yes, it is the human brain, but nothing much is happening. Now we can see the blood flow, which mimics electrical activity. Realize that your brain uses about 20 watts of power, and yet it would take a supercomputer the size of a city block to reproduce what your brain does. So when someone calls you a dim bulb, that's a compliment.
Michio Kaku is our guest here on Book TV at the National Book Festival. Numbers are up on the screen. If you'd like to dial in and talk with Dr. Kaku, 202 is the area code, 585-3890. If you live in the East and Central time zones, 585-3891. For those of you out west, go ahead and dial in. Now, if you can't get through on the phone lines and you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, you can do so at Twitter, twitter.com/booktv, or you can make a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/booktv. Here's his most recent book, The Future of the Mind. Now, we think of science fiction and some of the things that they do in science fiction. Are those possible today?
Yes. The internet, for example, of the future could be a brain net whereby we send memories, sensations, feelings on the internet, not just simple text messages. Think of it. Teenagers are going to go crazy putting the memories of the senior prom, the memories of their first kiss on the brain net of the future. We can now do that with animals. We can actually record a memory. You train a mouse to do a certain thing. We record the impulses across the hippocampus, reinsert it back in when the mouse forgets the task, and the mouse remembers. We're going to have a brain pacemaker for Alzheimer's patients. People with memory problems will be able to push a brain pacemaker and remember. And now the Pentagon, just last week, announced a new initiative whereby GIs with brain injuries will be able to not only control mechanical arms and legs, but also have memory enhancement for those people injured in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is big.
Now, what's the actual technology that can remember a memory or record a memory?
Here's how it works. When you remember a task, the hippocampus, which is at the center of the brain, which is about that big, has electrical activity that records the memory. We now tap into it. we put 2 electrodes at both ends of the hippocampus and tape record what goes back and forth. We don't know what it means, we just tape record it. After the mouse forgets the task, we reinsert that memory into that mouse or another mouse, and bingo. On the first try, the mouse remembers. Next will be primates. Primates are now going to have their memories recorded very soon, and after that, a brain pacemaker for Alzheimer's patients. And who knows, in the future, perhaps we'll upload the memory of a vacation that we never had.
Now, Dr. Kaku, one of the things you write about in the future of the mind is something that's become in the popular lexicon because of the Big Bang Theory, the dead cat, live cat theorem. What is that, and what does it mean?
Well, I'm a quantum physicist, and we realize that at the level of atoms, you don't really know where the electron is. The electron could be spin up, spin down. Now, we're made out of atoms, which means that in some sense, are we really alive or are we dead? You have to make an observation to make sure of whether or not a cat, for example, is dead or alive. If you don't make the observation, the cat is neither dead nor alive. You're in this nether quantum zone, and that's called quantum consciousness. That is, it takes a conscious being to determine whether or not you're dead or alive by looking at you. Now, at this point, if you think I'm crazy for mentioning that you could be neither dead nor alive, realize that Einstein thought this was ridiculous, but Einstein was wrong. We measure this every day in the laboratory with electrons. But when you apply it to humans, that's when you get a headache.
Kevin is calling in from Michigan. Kevin, where in Michigan are you calling in from? And then go ahead with your question for Dr. Michio Kaku.
I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and I was wondering if he had heard any new updates on Fukushima. Had done some reading and seen that they were having some problems with horses dying on the California coastline recently, and it was supposedly nobody could pinpoint what was causing the problem.
I'm not sure about that. What is he talking about in particular?
Kevin, once again, you're talking about porpoises dying on the California coast. Where?
Horses, some race horses. There's been a
race horses.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Sorry about that. Michael in Florida. This is Book TV, and you're on with Michio Kaku. Hi. Michael in Florida. We're going to move on to John in Illinois. John, where in Illinois are you calling from?
Elgin, where they used to make the watches.
Please go ahead, sir.
Understanding is that the study of remote viewing.
We're listening, sir. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
I think we lost him.
I think we did too. We're going to try that again. 202 is the area code, 585-3890 in the Eastern Central Time Zones, 585-3891 for those of you in the Mountain and Pacific Time Zones. Dr. Kaku, what does this portend for mental illnesses, something else you write about in the future of the mind?
You know, the politicians have gotten wind of it, and President Barack Obama and the European Union have pledged $1 billion to map the human brain. What's the payoff? The payoff is to understand and perhaps cure mental illness. Realize that there are tens of millions of Americans at any given time suffer from some form of mental illness, but we don't know why. Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. We're children in beginning to understand schizophrenia. However, when someone hears voices because they're schizophrenic, the left part of your brain lights up when you generate voices. We all do this when we talk to ourselves. But these people are unaware of the fact that the left part of the brain is generating a voice. So the front part of the brain, the conscious brain, does not understand what the left part of the brain is generating, and that's what we call madness. We can now quantify what madness is. It's basically when parts of the brain don't talk to each other, and the brain generates imaginary voices just like we all do, but without your permission.
Something you write about, and in your talks, you talk about the fact that your mother died or suffered from Alzheimer's.
That's right. We want to find, of course, a cure for Alzheimer's. My mother died of Alzheimer's disease, And now we have the ability to record memories. And that's why the Pentagon is now